Do we really have a free market economy in the US? Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I bet you didn't think you'd see me again so soon. I wanted to do a follow-up on my last video about deep state control mechanisms. I touched on a pretty general thing in the last video, and I wanted to expand on that a little bit. And I wanted to discuss some overarching control mechanisms that have become very, very powerful and influential. I started this off with a question. Do we really have a free market economy in the US? I would argue no, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. We have situations where these large global banks and central banking have tremendous control over virtually every aspect of citizens' lives. And I'm going to speak specifically about the US, but it applies more generally to all over the world because these control mechanisms are far beyond just in the United States. So I want to make sure I check off some key points here. Think about this. The global banks, and when I say global banks, people know the banks that I'm talking about: BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Blackstone, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll explain more about the connection between all of those banks in a little bit here. But first, I want to cover some important things. Think about the idea of antitrust violations and monopolies and things like that. Now we have a scenario in which a lot of these large banks, investment banks, private equity, et cetera, own each other. If you look into who has shares in each of these banks, it's other banks. Now, they may not have controlling or voting shares per se, but they have influence. Some of them do have controlling shares in many different industries and in other banks. But even if they don't have controlling shares, they still have influence on what happens. That doesn't even address the issue of how they have all their little secret policy, global policy type and consensus building type conferences around the world, like the World Economic Forum and the Bilderberg Group, and the list goes on and on and on. We'll talk more about that in future episodes. But just, I'm going to check off some key industries. The food production industry, like Coca-Cola Foods, Pepsi Foods, those are two of the largest. They basically own for all intents and purposes, every food production company. All the major ones, right? As far as shares, investment shares. Big tech and telecom, all the big tech companies, all the telecom companies, look at who has a lot of investment in those companies. It's all, usually it's all the same players. The mainstream media, both the right and the left, look at, it's all the same. It's all the same players on both quote unquote sides. Social media companies, same thing. Big pharma, same thing. The insurance industry, same thing. Now you've seen over the last decade corporate hospitals, right? What you like used to be your local regional hospital is now a corporate hospital. Even the little clinics, like the health clinics in different areas now, are all owned by the same companies. So where I live, like four or five of the medical facilities here are all owned by the same larger companies. A big one to discuss is agency capture, right? We've all heard this before. The agencies that are supposed to regulate these industries, like Securities and Exchange, FDA, USDA, et cetera, they're all basically controlled by the industries that they're supposed to be regulating. And there's that, we've all heard also of the revolving door. These people work for these agencies, and then when they get out, they get a cushy job with one of these corporations that they were supposed to have been regulating. There's nothing to see here. That's nothing suspicious about that, right? So I want to talk about the idea of price fixing, right? Years ago, uh, the movie The Informant, you probably have seen it or at least heard of it. Matt Damon starred in it. That was based on a book. And I read that book a long time ago when the book first came out. It's probably 15 or so years ago, maybe more. And then it was eventually made into a movie. And that deals with the whole price fixing thing on a high level, big corporations, right? So, what do you think all these consensus building conferences are? These big global policy conferences. These are all powerful people in different industries. And so I believe, and I think there is enough evidence to support this, that price fixing is the norm in industry. You ever notice? I'll just give some examples how prices all go up at once. If it was a free market economy, why would all the prices across all these different brands and all these different companies go up simultaneously and essentially the same amount? They say, oh, it's inflation, it's inflation. I know people have looked into this, but the amount of inflation versus the amount of the price hikes with things, the price hikes typically well exceed the inflation rate, right? Supply chain, right? We heard a lot about supply chain issues. We've heard a lot about obviously inflation. Every single thing has dramatically gone up in price over the last year or so. I mean, insane how much it's literally crazy when you the grocery store. Gas is like $5 a gallon where I live. Um, you go to buy foods that you've bought for years. It's insane the amount that it has gone up, far above what the stated inflation rates are, right? So, are these things manufactured? I would argue they are. I would argue the monopolies, even if they're not technically monopolies, these types of control mechanisms that these big corporations and banks have, they're the ones colluding, in my opinion, and raising prices. I'll give another sort of everyday example. You notice how every year when new car models are released, right? All the companies use this and clothing and many things. They use the same color schemes, the same design cues. These are supposed to be independent companies, right? But they always seem to follow the same type of metrics or sort of styling cues and pricing when it comes to like different cars. I'm just using cars as an example, but clothing is another example, right? You'll see a lot of the same color schemes come out from year to year. I find it hard to believe that this all happens by chance. Now, people can say, "Oh, it's just the industries, they all interact and they all share information, et cetera, et cetera." I get that, but I'm talking about the bigger pictures. If we live in a free market economy, companies are supposed to be competing with one another, right? If one company wants to increase sales and build their brand, They should be able to lower prices, offer a better value, offer better quality for the price so they can win customers potentially from another brand, right? Globalism is a big thing, and I believe it's a big issue that's been affecting the world. Think about it. What has been accomplished by globalism? Has it benefited citizens at all? I would say no. The argument with globalism, oh, it'll reduce costs and things will be more efficient. Products have gone to shit. They're not better. In fact, they've all gotten worse across the board. Even companies that had amazing reputations for quality and value, their quality has gone down and their prices have gone up. And this, in my opinion, is due to globalism. Globalism serves the tiny, tiny, tiny top of the pyramid of the financial elites in the world. It's a way to get cheaper labor by not increasing quality and just doing it more efficiently. It's basically by offering people less, but charging more money for it. And if everybody's doing it, people have no choice. I'll give another example. What is a service that everybody uses? A streaming service. Amazon would be a good one to mention. You would sign up for Amazon Prime and you would get free 2-day shipping. And then you'd also get access to the videos, Prime Video. During starting in spring of 2020 and going forward, because of so-called supply chain issues, you didn't get 2-day shipping anymore, right? But they didn't lower the cost of your monthly Prime membership, right? They kept it the same. It went up actually, and it continues to go up. Another thing, now when you get an Amazon Prime, a movie that's included in your Prime membership, there's commercials now on a lot of the movies, right? A lot of streaming services are doing that now. Now, people accept this, right? I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. These things happen, and we just sort of accept it. Well, they're all doing it, and I guess that's what we're doing. I guess that's the new thing, the new normal, quote unquote, the new normal. I believe that these things happen because we do not have a free market economy. We have this oligarchy that essentially, and a banking cartel that essentially controls almost every aspect of day-to-day life for regular people, right? It's really interesting because I've tried to discuss this with people and they just don't look at the big picture and they go, yeah, that's just the way it is, right? That's what a lot of people say. They're just doing their thing. They're working, they're trying to make money, they're raising their families, etc. I get it. But people have more power than they realize, but we just accept things like this is just the way it is. I'm not saying it would be easy to change things. That's not what I'm saying. But change happens, it has to start with ideas. It has to start with realization and then ideas. You have to be willing to think, well, how can we change this? Is there a way to change it, or are we just doomed? Uh, you get the point that I'm making, right? These companies are so used to just because they have so much power and control, they're used to doing whatever they want without much pushback at all. People might complain, they might send them a feedback. It's all AI anyway. You're not dealing with another person on the other end. You'll get an AI generated response. Now, there is convenience, of course. Convenience is about the only thing that globalization has offered, but in my opinion, convenience at a higher cost is not really that convenient. Everything has gone up in price so much in such a short amount of time. And I believe this is by design. Now, I can't go into every example, every detail about this stuff in one video. It would literally take a 12-hour video to go into the different levels of everything. And there are many levels. But for the sake of just giving an overview of this stuff, and a lot of people might say, well, okay, whoop-de-doo. We all know that. But the thing is, knowing something and just going along with it is not good enough. Accepting it is not good enough. We've gone way past the point of where we can just accept everything that's foisted upon us by these powerful entities. And I believe, and I'm not going to get into politics, but I will, it's hard to talk about this stuff without at least brushing up against politics. That the whole system is run by the same larger financial elite interests. So, and again, I won't go down that road today. We'll save that for another time. But okay, so think about inflation, right? If you talk to a finance person, they'll tell you, well, it's the Fed and, it's the interest rates and so on and so forth. They know when they have to print money, it's going to cause inflation. And they always seem to create scenarios in which they have to monkey around with interest rates and printing money. So the whole idea of debt slavery, which I'm sure everybody's at least heard of, pretty well clocks the path that we have been on for a long time. Look at the cost of college now. It's insane. I went to college for 2 years after high school, and then I didn't go back to finish my undergrad till much later. The cost was far beyond what it should have been. And this is what's happened over time. It's very easy to clock it. The median income has gone up at a certain rate. The cost of living has gone up at a much steeper angle and a much higher rate of increase. So what people earn has not been congruent with the cost of living, the cost of school, the cost of food, the cost of insurance, the cost of homes. That is, in my opinion, manufactured. It has been done deliberately. Now, the normies will say, I know plenty of people because of where I grew up that work on Wall Street or involved on some level. They're involved in banking or Wall Street and finance and so on. They would say a different thing, right? Because they've been basically indoctrinated into this way of thinking. And so I don't adhere to that way of thinking. And look, if I was making major big bucks working for one of these corporate companies or one of these large scale banks in the finance industry, I might not want to look at these things because I'm doing great, right? But the reality is most people don't work in those types of jobs. I'm just a regular working stiff, right? I have to work, bust my butt to pay my bills, to have some fun, to have some vacation time, to have some toys, etc. But I know that it's harder, it seems to be harder for people that make a lot of money to really question a lot of these things because you don't typically question things that you have done well under, right? It's just not the way that it works. But I think collectively, society is losing because we don't have true representation. We have people that maybe at one point or another wanted to represent citizens in the government. But what happens? They get co-opted, they get corrupted by big money and big power. And that's a whole other discussion for another time, which I promise we'll get into in later episodes. So this video is not going to be a long one. I just wanted to address sort of a jumping off point from some of the things I discussed in my last episode. I mean, it doesn't take much to see this stuff. Anybody that goes to the grocery store, right? Anybody that goes to the gas pumps, anybody that buys anything, orders stuff online, has seen the increase. And it's always the things that people need to live, to live a decent life, right? We all have to eat food and hopefully decent food. We all want to travel. We all want to be able to drive places. But look at the cost of everything. I would argue that it's all by design. And I think that it is a daunting thing to think about. How do we fix it? It's so bad. And like I always say, and I'll keep on saying this, it starts with awareness, and it starts with people thinking about what is it that citizens could potentially do to make a dent. And I believe that awareness is just the first step. You have to have awareness of what's going on, obviously, pay attention to it. And the second thing is realize people think they have to accept things, and the power structures have gotten people to believe that, hey, this is just how it is. You have no choice. That's not how a free market is supposed to work, right? People are supposed to, you know, be able to spend their money, and there should be different options, different choices. But because of the system that we have, they have eliminated those choices, or you have to do a lot of work to find these alternative choices. So with that, I'll say thank you to everybody. Again, as I'm going to keep saying, this is all just my opinion, and I'm not accusing anyone specifically about anything. It's just allegedly, as they say in the true crime world. And I would encourage people to look into these things if you haven't already. I know a lot of people out there are smart and they know this stuff, but we have to spread the idea of people realizing they can change things if we get a critical mass of people that are aware of it and fed up enough to do so. So, thank you to everybody. I appreciate everybody's support. I appreciate all the comments. Please like, subscribe, and if you like my stuff, please share it. We have to build a coalition of people that are awakened, and that takes time. But that is the starting point, and then you want to ideally build communities to start actually trying to come up with solutions, not just pointing out all the shit that's wrong to people. So keep that in mind. I'll be back with another video very soon, and I'll see you guys all on the next one. Take care, everybody.